So how are we going to translate this idiom? If it means this is the issue, this is the main point. NIV translator, remember this. I'm going to translate, but remember this, the main point. The issue is grace versus legalism, the correct mental attitude of grace versus a wrong mental attitude, correct motivation versus wrong motivation. The wrong motivation in the midst of a test, well, eliminates the blessing, the spiritual blessing. You might be able to stand the test, but if you have the wrong mental attitude, then you eliminate the blessing from that test. Undeserved suffering, or whatever test that comes along, is for the purpose of increasing the grace blessing. Not necessarily not the material blessing, grace blessing. Yes, once you have the grace blessing in your life, God will also match up with material blessing, but the emphasis is on the grace blessing. So the main issue is this. I'm going to translate it. But remember this, the main point. And now we begin our agricultural analogy. Ho speron. Spero is the present active participle of spero, yeah? Ho speron is the articular participle for the one who sows, the one who plants seed. I live in little country towns here in the Imperial Valley. We are unique in the sense that no rain falls on this land, and most of our water comes from the Colorado River. All of the water comes from the Colorado River. The Colorado River has been rerouted by way of the All-American Canal, and it goes all the way to the Imperial Valley. And then it connects to other canals up north, such as big canals, such as the Highline Canal right before Holtville, California, and some other diagonal canals are connected from it, such as the Central Main Canal, which crosses Calexico, El Centro, and goes all the way up to Brawley. And then the last great canal from the All-American is called the West Side Main Canal, a little bit after Sealy, which goes up north as well. From these great canals, other small canals are connected from them so as to spread the water out throughout all these great fields. 75% of our jobs are agricultural jobs, most of them taken by immigrants, and it's not their fault. It is our fault. If you talk to people here in the Imperial Valley, we have the wrong attitude about agricultural jobs. We are raised to become educated, and we shun, we reject, we see these jobs of agriculture as menial, as demeaning jobs. There's nothing wrong with working the fields. The problem is that our culture here is we're raised to, no, avoid the fields, go on, become educated, leave the Imperial Valley, go to San Diego, go up north to LA. So it's not the immigrants' fault, it's our fault here. Just remember, there's nothing wrong with working the fields. If you're a field worker, wonderful. There's nothing wrong with also being a farm owner and you having your own fields. We do need urban cities, but we also need those great farms. And now with the access to the internet, and as a result you have access to Bible doctrine by way of the internet, you could be far away in your farmland, farming, and learning Bible doctrine. So, for those of you who are called to live in the farm and work, cultivate the land, go ahead and do so. If you're called to be in the urban areas, then go ahead and do so. Okay, ho speron. How are we going to translate this articular participle? The NIV translator, whoever sows sparingly. I'm going to translate it, he who sows, for now. He who sows. This is a nomic present. A nomic present is for a general timeless fact. The general timeless fact here is, if you sow sparingly, you will reap sparingly. If you put, here in the Imperial Valley, we have onions, many winter crops, and summer crops as well. So, say you're planting your carrots or your onions, and they must be 4 inches apart, more or less. But What if you do not plant 4 inches apart? Lettuce, for example. Lettuce is wonderful when you pass by those fields and you see all the lettuce fields sprouting, all bunched up, clustered up, all these lettuces together. But it's sad whenever you see a lettuce here and then empty ground, and then a lettuce here, there, and then empty ground, because you decided to plant a seed about, say, 20 inches apart. See, now not only are you not using your land, but it looks sad. It looks less prosperous, less bountifully. So the sower must make sure that he uses his seed and plant them about, say it's lettuce, 10 inches apart from each other. Less, maybe. Okay, hospero. So it's a gnomic present. The active voice, the sower produces the action of the verb of planting the seed. And the participle is articular here for the sower, and it's an application to the believer who's about to give. So, he who sows, and then there's an adverb of pheidomenos. Pheidomai is the verb. Pheidomai. Pheidomai means to spare. It means, to be stingy, or to spare in the sense of protecting someone from harm. Pheidomai. The participles pheidomenos, so being sparing. So here this is the participle but. Instead of seeing pheidomenos with the omicron, we make it into an adverb. It is made into an adverb here by omega. So, yes, we're going to translate this not sparingly but stingily. And what determines whether you sow stingily? What determines it is by not sowing on the basis of grace, with the wrong mental attitude. If you have the wrong mental attitude, you as the sower, you sow stingily. A wrong mental attitude could be something like scoring points with God, giving without a relaxed mental attitude, giving with a grudge, giving because you feel coerced, pressured, giving to impress other people. And whenever you add that wrong mental attitude, you eliminate the grace factor from the act of giving, and therefore when you eliminate the grace factor, you sow stingily. You're expecting something in return. You're expecting someone to remember the act of giving, and so that so that he can remember you, etc. All these different motivations. And that's how we're going to translate it. Romans 8:32 uses the word pheidomenos. Romans 8:32. It uses the word for, here it is, pheidomai, with reference to God in giving his son. Look how it reads, he who did not spare his son, but gave him up for us all. How will he not also, along with him, graciously give us all things? So pheidomai here, spare. And it's often interpreted as, he did not protect his son from the harm, he just gave him up for us. But you can definitely go in terms of stingy. He was not stingy with his son. He gave him up to die for the sins of the whole world, with the result that we have this great salvation. God the Father was not stingy at all. And he uses this word, pheidomai, ephesato. And look, how will he not also, along with him, graciously, charizomai, give us all things? He gave us something in grace, not expecting anything in return. It was all grace. He did it from the motivation of his love. And so this can definitely be applied to us who give, specifically to the Corinthians. If you eliminate the grace attitude, you are stingy about the act of giving. So, let me just finish this clause before I start writing. He who sows stingily, and then there's the repetition of pheidomenos, an adverb. Stingily, guy, this is an adjunctive also. Stingily, he will also therise, the future active indicative of therizo, reap. Of course, to be consistent with the agricultural analogy, if you plant a seed 20 inches apart, you are planting stingily. What are you going to do with all that seed that you have left over? It's eventually going to rot. It's going to be eaten by some animals. So, in order for you to reap bountifully, you must be able to plant the seeds, put them right next to each other. He who sows stingily, stingily he will also reap. And this is the future tense. It's a gnomic future. It is similar to the gnomic present for a general timeless fact. But here is with the future. Future has to do with a chronological sequence. You sow first of all, and then you reap. So that's why it's used in the future tense. A gnomic future for the general timeless fact that when the farmer sows stingily, he will reap stingily. The active voice, he produces the action of the verb of reaping. At the end, he finally gathers all the crops and he says, well, I do not have that much as I thought. Well, of course, you sowed stingily. And this is the indicative mood, is declarative for this statement of doctrine. Let me just prepare you really quick. So here's you, the giver, or if you prefer, the sower. And say that you have this amount. First of all, your mental attitude. Mental attitude has to be done on a grace basis. And your mental attitude determines not only how much, but the attitude whether this amount that you give is going to be given on a grace basis. Yes, it's true that this verse can apply in the sense of how much you give, especially if you have Bible doctrine, and you know that a specific situation requires for you to give a certain amount. You put all the facts together, you have the doctrine, you make the doctrinal application, and you know that in order for you to make a significant impact in a situation, you have to give a certain amount. And even though you know all the facts and you decide to give not so much because, I don't need to give so much, rather. So yes, it's true that the mental attitude does determine the amount that you give. So yes, we can say that you kept a portion for yourself. You were supposed to give all of this. So your stingy mental attitude withheld that amount that you were supposed to give. But secondly, even with the end amount that you give, you can also become stingy about it when you eliminate grace from it. If you mix your motivations with legalism, any idea of scoring points, any idea of me gaining attention and approbation from people, you eliminate the grace attitude, and that is stingy. When you eliminate the grace, you sow parsimoniously. So one, sowing stingily does have to do with withholding a certain amount that you do have to give because you know the facts and you have the doctrine. But secondly, with the amount that you do give, you can also become stingy about it by mixing it with the wrong mental attitude. And we see this in Acts chapter 5 with Ananias and Sapphira. What do? They sold a piece of land. Boom. This whole piece of land here. But they said, okay, let's keep this amount and lie and only give this amount. And let's lie that this is the amount that we gave for our hold of our piece of land. Okay, so that's the first stage of being stingy. Wrong mental attitude. Now they're lying. But even with the amount that they give, they added wrong motivation, and it was lust, approbation lust, attention lust. And so they eliminated the grace factor from the end amount that they gave. So they sowed stingily. At the end of the day, they tied the sin on to death. Satan filled their soul. They were motivated by Satan, and so this is them sowing stingily, not only in with the amount, but also with the end amount that they gave. They mixed it with the wrong motivation, eliminating thereby the grace factor from it.